Hi everybody, I'm David Palermo, the real estate guy from the agency, and on this episode we chat with Ben Wyatt in our Shop Local where we go shopping for politicians, and we ask him about Victoria Park, windmills, and why he's famous in the US. Ben, thank you for coming along.
David, great to be chatting with you.
Ben, many people know you as the Vic Park member, and you have been for how long now?
11 years on election day, David. Yeah.
Very good, very good. The people that know you as Vic Park member obviously are a little bit older and get to vote, but around Christmas time the people of Vic Park and their children know you as the windmill man. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I can. Well, it's been one of those funny things that you do as a last minute thing that then just steamrolls, and oh gosh, now it would have been about 7 or 8 years ago. We had a bunch of pinwheels effectively left over, had a few hundred of them. So let's hand them out on the street mall, Christmas street mall, and they just disappeared in the space of about 20 minutes. So each year now we give out about 2,000.
So we're up to 2,000, great.
About 2,000, and we run out.
Now,
so it's become something of quite a thing, and I don't think I can ever stop doing it.
There's two very special helpers, I believe, that get conned into helping them. How long does it take your children to do that?
Oh, well, they love it. They did love it. My eldest is starting to get a bit more, actually I prefer to hang out and play with friends, but they enjoy it. And it's just a great fun thing to do. And it's actually, usually by about September we start thinking, okay, we've got to get the pinwheels, what sort, where do we order it from, and get onto that. But it's just a nice thing to be able to do, and it has become quite an event part of that street mall.
Now, apart from being famous for the windmills or the pinwheels in Vic Park at the Christmas Street Mall, you're also very well known in the United States, and you're famous. Can you tell us a little bit about why you are famous in the US?
Well, those who follow the comedy Parks and Recreation will know the character Ben Wyatt, of course. And the funny thing about Ben Wyatt is my Twitter handle is Ben Wyatt, and his Twitter handle is close, but not exactly, because of course I got it before he came along. But I regularly get tweets directed to me from, let's just say, female fans of the Parks and Rec Ben Wyatt that I sometimes have a bit of fun with in my response.
We'll leave it at that with the female fans. Now, your first campaign was 10 years ago, 2006, with the by-election, with Dr. Jeff Gallop retiring at the time. Can you tell us what's changed in the political space? Because now there is social media, which wasn't really there 10 years ago. How has that changed your campaign?
It's changed campaigning fundamentally. When I was first elected, Facebook, Twitter, I wasn't on it. It wasn't a part of how you engage with people. So there's two components to it really. There's that campaigning, that is pushing out policy messages that you have, but there's also how you engage on a day-to-day basis with your constituents. Facebook in particular I use more as a local member engaging with locals, and I have a lot of people now who that's how they engage with you. They don't email or call, they'll send messages through Facebook, and it's a great way to send messages to your constituents about what you're doing, what you're up to, where you're going to be. But it's fundamentally changed how we campaign. I was chatting with Jeff Gallop about this late last year, and he was saying he was here for 20 years, social media just wasn't an issue for him at all, whereas now it doesn't just guide how I engage with people of not just Vic Park but Western Australia, but also how the mainstream media responds. Often you can put out a tweet and you find that'll then get picked up by mainstream media. So it has changed things fundamentally. Also, the reality that the media cycle is now short. It might be an hour and then something else moves on.
I can remember Jeff attending many Italian church mass at St. Joachim's back when I was little, and did the right thing and went with my mum. And Jeff, I don't know if he actually understood Italian, but he got in there, and that was his way of getting amongst the people. Now, the recent Carlisle IGA proposal for demolition, and I believe your response to that was on your website, that went out yesterday. That's really starting to show that people of Vic Park and Carlisle are quite passionate about the area. Does that make it easier for you to pick up on what the voice is for the community, or is that more just a one-sided voice that's coming through?
No, it's a lot easier. As an MP, state or federal, you rely heavily on your local organised groups or your activist constituents to take up issues as well and bring them to my attention and other MPs' attention. And so Vic Park has still very much, I think, more than most areas, an inner city village feel, and that means that we all have a very strong sense, I think, of our identity in the electorate of Victoria Park, and you're seeing that with groups, whether they be the Vic Park Collective, indeed you, David, in the videos you put out about what's happening in Carlisle in particular. And so what that means is that as an MP, you've got a range of people you can call on for information and feedback. And so the IGA is a classic example where people now want to take ownership of their community. They don't want decisions to be made by government, whether it be state, local or federal, without ownership from the local community. And I think the IGA is a wonderful example, a huge petition very quickly, very strong social media response to not just to me, but to the town of Victoria Park. And it means that people have ownership in the decision. But having said that, it means that government's got to be reactive and responsive and take those views into consideration, because I just don't think the days where you can consult but not listen, that's not tenable anymore. You really do have to take those views on and respond.
Well, the submissions are closed now, and it'll be interesting to see the results after such a strong community sort of reach out from them, getting into touch with all the local governments. So your seat has always been a strong Labor seat, and I think in last week's video I mentioned there's only one time an independent had actually owned the seat. Do you think that's going to change in the future? Is it becoming tougher to hold your seat in the town of Vic Park?
It is changing dramatically, and you've seen that with when I first moved into the area 28 years ago. It was the average age was quite a fair bit older, and you've seen, which is what's happening in all the cities around Australia, inner city areas, increased density, the average age dropping, and you see lots of young families now in Victoria Park, the electorate that when I was around you just didn't see in my younger days. But it's what that means is that it's not so much the idea of, my view is that the whole idea of safe and unsafe seats probably are over, just with the way people pick up information, and the numbers of people who are dedicated to a political party have shrunk so dramatically. So it's all about making sure as local member, at least people feel as though if they don't know me, they feel as though I'm responsive to their concerns and advocate for them on a daily basis, or when they feel as though they need that representation. So yes, it's changing, but I think in a really good way, because it means that no politician, whether you're Labor or Liberal, doesn't matter which seat you're in, can simply take seats for granted anymore, and I think that's actually a good thing. It means also that when you put out policy proposals, you get great engagement back from your local community, which only strengthens the policy process.
So, upcoming election, Town of Vic Park obviously votes, and they get to vote whether yourself or someone else comes in. What are some of the key policies that yourself and Labor can introduce to Vic Park if they win the election?
Yeah, well, the big policy that I'm very excited by is, of course, our commitment to grade separate the Oat Street level crossing. I mean, for the last 11 years, it's been an issue of constant complaint to me that the Oat Street crossing, just near the train station there, is unsafe. And as traffic increases, not just on the road, but also rail, there's an increase in the numbers of trains, is that it's a real congestion point, and because it's an old level crossing, it's quite unsafe. So we're committed to grade separating that, and that means separating the road from the rail and probably sinking the rail under the road. And that would just mean that you completely remove that level crossing to allow for traffic flow, and it's really one of the main thoroughfares between Belmont and Victoria Park and Curtin University. But it also creates the opportunity for redevelopment around the station. The station's old, it's very old school, the old cement block platform. It's not safe, it's heavily utilised by buses because of the TAFE and Curtin University. So I think there's a huge opportunity for redevelopment of the precinct to create not just a safer and well-utilised public transport station, but also opportunities around housing and increased density around the nodes that we know we have to increase the sort of density where people need to live. So I think that's really one of the most exciting infrastructure commitments that any party's made in a long time, and I think if I can deliver on that, I'll be very, very happy.
Now, you've mentioned that a new station will increase the amount of safeness people feel, I guess, as a word, but as we've noticed in Carlisle at the moment, the Neighbourhood Watch is back, which is great, a great thing that the locals are pushing that. Crime has obviously been an issue, and there's a bit of crime at that station, but more so than just the station, what can the Labor Party do addressing crime in the area?
And we've made some commitments around increased CCTV, and that's important in respect of keeping eyes on the street, and people feel safer when you've got recordings of crime, and hopefully reduces that sort of behaviour. But also I want to see more activity hubs. If you have people around, pedestrians, traffic, inevitably crime will decrease. So that's what I want to see around the Oat Street hub, but really around, and this is in fact a great example of this is social media, the Carlisle Neighbourhood Watch, our commitments around increased CCTV will hopefully bring some feeling of security for people in Carlisle back, and also control over their own streets and neighbourhoods. But I think that's ultimately important, because yes, we have police are inherently reactive, so I want to see opportunities that people can take control of their house, their street in their suburb.
Okay. The Facebook pages that you've mentioned have been very popular amongst locals to get the word out and talk to the community. How can people get in touch with you, and what's the best way for them to do it if they have any questions about this video or about the upcoming election?
Well, I'm very active on social media, so people on Facebook, absolutely send me messages on Facebook. I respond, I like to think quickly, or phone, email, my office, any way you'd like to get me, then I'm fairly quick with my response. And social media is great because I'm a bit obsessive, so at night if I get a message on Facebook I respond fairly quickly. So I'm always around, I live locally and happy to take questions on any issue.
So if you have any questions for Ben, you can pop them up into the Facebook comments below. If it's a bit more of a serious question, I'll put up the links for the email and phone number for the office, and I'm sure you'd be happy to answer that within good time. Ben, people are going to walk into the polling booths on March 11. What have you got to say to them before they mark the ballot paper? What are your final thoughts?
Well, I think there's a real opportunity. Ultimately, governments get old, whether they be Labor or Liberal, and an opportunity to refresh government, and that's what Labor's offering. I think in Victoria Park, we have a great opportunity now, not just in respect to the infrastructure around Oak Street, but the commitments that we have around local health with Bentley Hospital, and also in respect of crime and local sporting organisations. So a good suite of policies, I think, for the people of Victoria Park, and importantly for the state, coming at the end of what has been a very long-term government.
You've heard it from Vic Park's favourite son himself. We get to vote in a couple of weeks' time. This is Shop Local, another edition. Thank you, Ben Wyatt, for being part of the show.
Pleasure, David. Thank you.